What type of girls are you into? I think it's only appropriate to start this video with that question because today we are talking about Yuki, one of the only special grade sorcerers in the entire Jujutsu Kaisen world. More specifically, we're going to be talking about how strong she is. So this is not going to be a video on her character and her potential on the end of the series, because there are theories that she's gonna be involved with everything that's gonna happen with Kenjaku at the end, and with a whole plan of having people removed from cursed energy. So there's a lot on that, but I'm not going to be discussing that today because there's quite a lot of videos already on YouTube about that. I'm going to be discussing something that's not talked about too much for some reason, and it's actually a power scaling video on Yuki. Well, it makes sense why there aren't videos on it because we've never actually seen her fight, so we don't know how strong she is. I mean, we know she's very strong, but just how strong is she? Because she is a special grade, and that's what this video is going to be today. Pretty much this video was one of many options that could have been a video, and is actually decided by my channel members in a poll on what video I was going to make. I'm quite shocked that Yuki actually won this because the other characters involved were characters like Yuta, so it's clear that people are interested in this. At the very least, my channel members were. And also, shout out to all the special grade and honored one members of the channel. You guys make these videos possible. Now, to start off with just how strong is she at a baseline? We know that she's a special grade sorcerer, and this is very impressive because we know special grade sorcerers are incredibly powerful. They aren't even comparable to special grade curses, with the exception being the extremely high tier curses, and even then the sorcerers would still be stronger than them because they're just in a class of their own. And here's the interesting thing, she, as far as we know, is the first special grade sorcerer. Well, I guess I shouldn't be saying that. There probably were special grade sorcerers before her. Whether or not they died or retired or whatever happened to them, we just don't know. Or hey, maybe it is possible that she truly was the very first one, and that this whole special grade system is really a modern thing, because this wasn't actually around during the ancient times, but it's really hard to pinpoint just exactly what era the modern day system was implemented. However, what we can say confidently is that she is not only the oldest special grade member by age, but also the person who's been the special grade for the longest in terms of everyone who's currently a special grade. I mean, it is possible that Gojo was given the class of special grade when he was born. I haven't actually seen people say this. This is just something that I've thought of. Just by being born with the 6 eyes and limitless, you should really just be given a special grade class. And considering he was carrying grade 1 sorcerers when he was just a little boy, I wouldn't be too surprised if Gojo was classified as special grade. So perhaps Gojo was classified as one before her. But the point is, she's been a special grade for a while. I'm hopping on this quite a lot. I mean, because remember, the Gojo flashback was about 11 years ago, and she was already a distinguished special grade. She seemed to be very, very established by that point as well. And here's the interesting thing, at the very least 11 plus years ago, so it could have been way more than that, she was considered special grade sorcerer level, which is just incredibly impressive. Imagine how strong she is right now, because yes, we know she doesn't like taking missions, as the daybook says that her causes of stress is actually missions. That's her main one, so that's actually why we see in the series she never takes missions. But still, that doesn't mean she hasn't been training, especially considering the fact that she actually trained Todo to how strong he is right now. And actually what? And actually, this speaks volumes to just how strong she is. Because think about this, just by training Todo from a young age, she's actually made him a grade 1 sorcerer by the time he was in his 3rd year, which is just incredibly impressive. And actually, fun fact, the reason Todo has a scar across his face is actually due to Yuki and her training. So we don't actually know how he got it, but what we know is that he got the scar from one of her harsh training. So I guess that says a lot about her. She does not play around. When she trains you, or when she fights people, she goes all out. And also, just one other thing to point out. Think about this. As for Gojo, we don't actually know what his grade was. He was probably special grade, which I really do think by the time he was in his 2nd year, but a very, very big misconception, which is a fair one because I also made the same mistake for quite a long time. I had actually assumed that Geto was actually a special grade sorcerer during the hidden inventory. And actually, I see this as still a common misconception that is thought of still to this day by a lot of people. Actually, I reread the entire hidden inventory live on a stream because someone actually told me that I was wrong. So stubbornly enough, I actually went and I read the whole thing live on stream. And the guy was actually right. At no point when Geto was in his 2nd year, he was never ever said to be a special grade sorcerer. All that was said was Gojo said him and Geto were the strongest, which by the way, I'll be getting into that strongest statement and the link between Yuki later on. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. Geto was actually a grade 1 sorcerer when he was in his 2nd year. And we know this for a fact because there's like this tiny little dialogue or example box during hidden inventory where Geto is kind of explaining how his abilities work, and we actually see he is a grade 1 sorcerer. Straight up, it says he's grade 1. And if you read the whole thing, it was never said that he was a special grade sorcerer. Now, the reason that this mistake happens, and it's also the reason I made this mistake, is because there is a time skip within hidden inventory where they go from 2nd to 3rd year, and during this time skip, Geto becomes a special grade sorcerer by the time he's in his 3rd year. So he was a grade 1 when he lost to Toji, but by the time he was in his 3rd year, he was a special grade. So that's why when Yuki meets him when he's in his 3rd year, she says, oh, we're the special grade sorcerers, you know, we're both special grades. But yeah, think about that. Geto went from grade 1 level, granted he was quite a strong grade 1, probably the strongest grade 1 around, to just being an absolute behemoth and beast during the JJK0 manga and movie. So it shows that with time, these guys get really, really powerful. So you can imagine Yuki, who was already a special grade by that point, how strong she's gotten now. I know that's kind of headcanon-y, but it's logical and it makes a lot of sense. As to think otherwise would be pretty stupid and would be going against shonen logic. Well, I guess I should be saying shonen logic is the stupid thing, but it's really weird because characters constantly get stronger over time, even though it never says they were training or it was never shown that they were training. Most of the time it's just implied, and all of us fans have to imply that. This happens in quite a lot of series, and I mean quite a lot of series, like Bleach, Naruto, One Piece, Black Clover. It's happened multiple times in all these ones, and I know just mentioning these series is gonna make their fans butthurt, but it's the truth. It is what it is. But to go back to my girl Yuki, we know that she's very, very powerful. I mean, she's been a special grade for so long, she's just bound to have gotten stronger and stronger. So at the very least, she's not the bare minimum tier of a special grade sorcerer. She is extremely powerful. Now, a lot of this has been quite a lot of theory crafting and headcanon. So how about some actual facts and evidence to point out why she's so strong? The first piece of evidence, and the main piece of evidence, is that she was actually quite confident in taking on Kenjaku and Uraume, which is just incredibly impressive. I think she was trying to buy time because she wanted Laura, one of Geto's, I don't want to say henchmen, but I guess family members. Basically, she wanted him to get everyone out or to make sure everyone was safe. So while he was doing that in the background, she's actually stalling for time. So that's what she meant by I need to stall time. What's very interesting is if you look at her dialogue, she never once thinks that she can't take them on. All that she thinks is that she needs to buy time for everyone else to be safe. She's actually quite confident and very relaxed while she's talking to Kenjaku. I mean, this speaks volumes, and I just mean volumes about her power, because Uraume alone was coasting all of the other grade 1s solo. And not only that, there was an attack that was so powerful, it was pretty much going to kill every single grade 1 had they been hit by it. Well, I guess it wasn't just grade 1s, it was grade 2, semi-grade 1s, it was a whole mix, but the point is there were some pretty powerful characters mixed in there, such as Yuji, who was obviously grade 1 level of strength at the time, Panda, who was semi-grade 1, bare minimum in his gorilla form, probably low tier grade 1, but safe balling at semi-grade 1. We had Noritoshi there, who we all know how powerful he is right now, Kusakabe too, who obviously is a grade 1 sorcerer, right? Oh, and Shoso as well. Yeah, and all of these guys were getting coasted and low diff by Uraume until she came in and she actually stopped the attack of Uraume. That's a special grade level attack with her Shikigami alone. Quite impressive, and it seemed like she wasn't even beginning to get serious. And another big piece of evidence is the fact that Choso actually directly compares her power straight up to Yuta. Now, I'm not saying she's as strong as Yuta or she's stronger, which by the way could be a thing, I'm gonna explain that later. Yeah, Yuta fanboys, cry your hearts out. Okay, but jokes aside, Choso obviously he knows that Yuta is just on another level, as we've seen of several dialogues, as he even compares Yuta to something like Gojo. Obviously he's not saying he's as strong as Gojo, but he's just saying these two are clearly special grade sorcerer level, I have no chance of beating him. Actually not two, because it wasn't Rika and Yuta, it was actually from Yuta alone. I should actually correct myself, it was just Ace Yuta's presence. He was like, yep, we can't beat this guy, Yuji, you gotta run. So obviously he knows how powerful Yuta is, as he knows he's just a menace, but he literally compares her to Yuta. And this was during when Tengen said he needed 2 bodyguards. The reason Choso chose to volunteer was because he knew Yuji would need a special grade sorcerer to help him out on the mission of ending the culling games. And here's the craziest part, obviously he speaks as Yuta as just being someone so powerful that he needs his power to help, but he actually speaks of Yuki as if he was on the same tier as Yuta. But genuinely so, reread that interaction when they were deciding who the bodyguards are. If he knew Yuta was the strongest, he would have just said, you need to take Yuta, he's the strongest, he'll do everything. But he really does speak as if these two are just on such a massive tier of power that not only are they well beyond him, but he's just comparing them as if they're both comparable. It's very, very interesting what's being implied here. And obviously I think this is a very accurate statement because this is coming from Choso, who obviously has witnessed Yuta and his power, and he also just has a great gauge for power systems, or I guess power scaling, JJK. Yeah, Choso would be a great power scaler if he decided to do YouTube, because he can accurately gauge the abilities of his opponents, and he can also tell the smaller details on how people get stronger, as this is the case of Yuji, as he can tell that Yuji's not only gotten a bit stronger, but he's also gotten more refined and more skilled. So clearly Choso does have a good eye for this thing. And if Yuta was that much stronger than Yuki, he would have just said, Yuta, you gotta go, Yuki, you stay and guard Tengen with me. So yeah, actually surprisingly enough, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that she's quite the powerhouse, even though I guess we've seen her briefly fight. It wasn't really a fight, she just stopped an attack. And actually I was asking about this in my community tab to see what you guys are thinking, and even Seven Sin said, so basically he's a subscriber of the channel, he actually said that perhaps when she asked what kind of girls are into, this might have something to do with her abilities. It's probably not going to be the case, but it'd be really cool if it was, right? If this whole question that started off with Tojo during Goodwill, all of this ended up being actually something to do with Yuki's abilities, that would be pretty funny. And obviously the main theories that pretty much everyone in the community has is that her abilities have to do with Shikigami, and this is a pretty interesting assumption to make, because the thing is, we do see that she has a Shikigami flying around of her, and it seemed to be quite powerful too, as we even saw this in Toto's flashback, that the same Shikigami was there. So the thing is, I don't want to say her abilities has to do with a lot of Shikigami, as most people think. I think that the Shikigami here is just an exception. It's just probably a very strong one she has. Maybe she'll have 2 or 3 others, but I don't think she's gonna have a whole army or arsenal as people think. Because remember, Shikigami are things that every sorcerer can create. Barriers and Shikigami are things even someone like Yuji, who has no curse technique, can make. Because remember, you don't actually need a curse technique to make Shikigami and barriers, which is something people tend tend to forget. And actually, one interesting argument I've seen is that there are those who think she doesn't have a domain expansion. And here's the thing, I'm not saying that she does have one, I'm just saying it's a very, very bad idea to rule out the fact that she might have one. So let me actually break this down. The reason people think she doesn't have a domain expansion is because she was the one who taught Todo the simple domain. And people say, oh, because she uses simple domain, she must not have a domain expansion. Well, that's just a terrible argument, because A, you'd expect all the special grades, yes, they have their own domain expansions, but at the very least for them to have simple domains too. Not that they're going to use it, but for them to be on that level that they can at least have one, because they are special grade sorcerers. And if most grade 1 sorcerers have this, it would be very odd if people on the special grade caliber don't have one, even if they have the domain expansion. So I'm not saying that they actually use the simple domains, I'm just saying if they had one or knew how to use one. And the other thing to mention is that just because she had a simple domain, so perhaps when she was starting out, because remember, I know she looks very young and she says she's a beauty and all that, but she's at the bare minimum actually in her mid-30s. So yeah, she's quite old. So it is possible that maybe when she was in her teenage days, such as when she was maybe 11, 10, 12, 13, just starting out, or maybe when she was in her first or second year of Jujutsu High, that she just learned barrier techniques, because obviously simple domains are pretty vital. And it's possible as she was getting stronger and stronger, and then she eventually became special grade, got a domain expansion. Yes, she now has a domain expansion, but she had still learned her simple domain from back in the day. So again, I'm not saying she has a domain expansion, I just think it's very, very odd to assume that she doesn't just because she taught Todo the simple domain. And it's the weirdest part is that it's not like she used the simple domain. If she had actually used the simple domain instead of a domain expansion, okay, then I totally get that she doesn't have a domain expansion, or why you would think that. But the weirdest part is she's never actually used the simple domain. I mean, we know she has one, but she's never been in the situation where she needs to use domain expansion or a simple one. She just taught Todo a simple domain. I'm not gonna lie, it's just a very odd and strange argument that I see get floated around the community that makes zero sense and also follows no logic. So I just wanted to put that in. And again, it is possible that perhaps she just has an OP simple domain and she has no domain expansion. But let's at least keep it logical, right? Though I do hope she'd have a domain expansion. I mean, domain expansion is just so cool. I wish you got to see Udo's, Ryu's, and also Yuta's. It's really a shame we didn't get to see this, because considering the fact that the series is approaching the end, as we only have one big arc after the culling game, as well as 2 or 3 minor arcs before that, it's a shame that we haven't seen that many domain expansions. I mean, I guess it is nice that it's been kept as a rarity, but still, it's really cool to see them. It's kind of like the Bankai of the series, right? Or the Resurrection, or the Vault Standing, as all of those are from Bleach. Now, obviously, the other thing that she probably has is reverse curse technique. I mean, hey, she's special grade. It would be odd if she didn't. Though, I mean, it is possible that she might not, because Geto didn't have reverse curse technique either, so it is a possibility. And I guess the final thing I wanted to say, this is kind of like my own headcanon theory, so I just saved it for the end, but I actually do think that she's stronger than Yuta. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. Yuta is stronger because there's a whole statement how Yuta is the second strongest only to Gojo. And yes, I know in the official translation it says unusual abilities, but actually apparently, so I don't know if this is true, but I just heard in the original Japanese, it actually uses the kanji for strength, implying that Yuta is the second strongest to Gojo. So obviously Yuta could be stronger than her. At the very least, I think they gotta be on the same tier of power, or maybe she's at least one tier below, which is fair as well. So that would put her around Kashimo, Ishigori, and Udo level. But it is possible that maybe she could beat Yuta in a fight. And this is just solely based on her ability countering Yuta's. And again, I know this is a theory that has absolutely no backing to it and no evidence for it. This is just kind of like my own personal theory I just want to throw out there, so that if it ends up being true, I can be like, yo, look, I said this in the past. But yeah, that's personally what I think. I actually think she could probably beat Yuta in a fight, even though Yuta is stronger, because as we all know, Jujutsu Kaisen is quite complicated and matchups and abilities matter quite a lot. But hey, maybe I'm wrong and I'm just talking crazy. But at the very least, she is very, very close to Yuta in power, or at the bare minimum, they're both so strong that for characters like Choso, who's very, very powerful, they're both just so much stronger than everyone else that he can't even gauge what the difference between their strength is. So yeah, I would say she's at the bare minimum on Yuta's tier, perhaps a tier below, which is still very impressive. Again, that's like Ishigori level or something, which is very impressive. I guess we'll find out when we see her fight. I'm gonna be honest, I'm quite surprised that I managed to talk this much about how strong she could be when we've never seen her fight beside that one time she repelled an attack. So yeah, I really don't even know how I made this video so long. I wasn't trying to stretch or anything. It just ended up being this long. I mean, now I get why people actually wanted to see a video on her, at least on how strong she was, because there is quite a lot to be said. Even in the community post that I made, so not the members poll, but actually the one for the regular viewers of the channel, when I said I'm gonna make a video on her, it got so much interaction, and also a lot of people liked the post, which obviously indicates that a lot of people wanted to see it, which is very interesting. I guess because she's such a mysterious woman, a lot of people want to know more about her, and especially about her power scaling, because no one's talked about this. So I guess that's how my community reacted. I guess we'll find out if people actually cared that much about her when we see how this video actually does, which I'm also interested as well, to see just how much the fan base is actually interested in her. But yeah, anyway, that was my take, or I guess video on how strong she is. I guess we'll be finding out in the next arc after the culling game, which is going to be very, very soon, as in my own personal theory, I think this Maki fight is going to be the final fight in the culling game, because obviously we've beaten the culling games. I mean, you need 400 points points to end the culling games. Everyone together has over 500. So yeah, the culling games are pretty much beat. I really have no clue why people keep saying the culling games are going to go on. I know there's going to be 2-3 arcs after the culling game and then one big arc after that. But I don't mean those. I just mean the culling game itself. It's really just over, isn't it? I mean, they have all the points to end it. So I think after the culling game arc, we're going to be seeing a lot of Yuki. So then we can come back to this video and can see how right I was or how wrong I was. And please let me know what you guys think about Yuki as well. How strong do you think she is? What do you think her abilities could be? And who do you think she's going to fight in the series? So I didn't actually talk about this in my video, but I'm actually quite curious. Do you think she's going to be fighting Kenjaku again? Maybe Uruume? Or perhaps she's going to fight another sorcerer in the culling game if you think that's going to go on. Well, I guess probably not because she's not in the culling game, but we'll see how that's going to go. So yeah, all of your theories, thoughts, and about Yuki, whether it has to do with power scaling or even the story, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to read them. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much the video. If you enjoyed the video, please do be sure to subscribe. I have a ton of JJK content just like this on my channel, a ton of theories, what ifs, versus battles, discussion videos, and a whole bunch. So yeah, if you like JJK, please do be sure to subscribe and also leave a like on the video if you did enjoy it. And of course, thank you to all the members of the channel. You guys make these videos possible, so thank you. But yeah, if you've made it this far and you've subscribed, you're a member of the Higurumo fan club, and you're an absolute legend. And that's all from me. Take care and have a nice day, guys. See ya.